Hi everyone. This video should help you on your multiplying rational numbers homework from lesson 2.4. Good luck. For questions 1 through 4, it says write the fraction or mixed number as a decimal. Our only option for this is long division because none of these fractions have denominators that we can turn into 10, 100, or 1000. So the top number always goes inside. So we'll do 5.000 divided by 16. 16 doesn't go into 5, but 16 does go into 50 3 times. And 3 times 16 is 48. So we subtract and bring down a 0. 16 goes into 20 once. 16 goes into 40 2 times. 2 times 16 is 32. Bring down another 0. And then 16 goes into 80 5 times. So 0.3125. And our answer was positive. For number 2, it's going to be a negative quotient. We know that right away. And we're going to go 9 divided by 22. 22 doesn't go into 9, but 22 does go into 90. 4 times. 4 times 22 is 88. 22 does not go into 20. But 22 does go into 200. 9 times. 9 times 22 is 198. Twenty-two doesn't go into 20. So we bring down another 0, and now we can see this pattern is going to start going on where we have the 0909. So we'll just put a repeating bar above the 0 and the 9, and we'll say that this is negative 0.409 with a repeating bar. For number 3, let's just take the 6 out, and we'll bring that whole number back at the end. So then this just becomes 8 divided by 11. 11 doesn't go into 8, but it does go into 87 times. 11 goes into 30 twice. 11 goes into 80 7 times. 11 goes into 30 twice. So we can see that that pattern is going to continue, 0.7272. We had a 6 for a whole number, so this is going to be 6.72, and the 72 repeat, and it was positive. And now for this last one, a little trick would be to turn this into a mixed number first. So it's going to be negative 1 and 2/24. Now let's not worry about the negative 1. Let's just do the 2 divided by 24. So 24 doesn't go into 2. It doesn't go into 20. It does go into 200 8 times. So then we go 8 times 24 is 192. 8's going to go into 80 3 times. 24 is going to go into 80 3 times. And 24 times 3 is 72. 24 will go into 80 3 times. And so now we can see that's going to repeat. It's going to be a 3 repeating. And now we can bring back the negative 1.083, and the 3 will repeat. Find the product and write the fractions in simplest form. When we're multiplying fractions, we can really just multiply straight across the top. So we can really just multiply 1 times 4 is 4, and 4 times 3 is 12. We can simplify by dividing by 4 over 4 to get 1/3. And then we also need to look to the original problem and know that a negative times a negative is a positive. So our product will just be 1/3, and that will stay positive. Now the other thing that you could have also done here is you could have simplified right away, because the 4 and the 4 will cancel, and you would have been left with 1/3. And then you could have just done the negative times the negative as a positive, and you would have got the same thing. For number 14, we'll just multiply the 5 times 8. That's 40. 6 times 15 is 90. And then we can divide by 10 over 10 to get 4/9. And a positive times a negative is a negative. So we have negative 4/9. For those of you who like to simplify right away, that would have been a good idea in this situation. We have a 5 and a 15. A common factor is 5. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 15 3 times. 6 and 8 also have a common factor of 2. 2 goes into 8 4 times, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. 1 times 4 is 4, and 3 times 3 is 9. And finally, number 15, let's turn the integer negative 2 into a fraction, negative 2 over 1. And then let's change the mixed number into an improper. So that's going to be 1 times 4 is 4, plus 1 more is 5 fourths. And now we can just multiply. 2 times 5 is 10. And 1 times 4 is 4. We can simplify dividing by 2 over 2. And that'll give us 5 halves. 5 halves, we can turn that back to a mixed number. 2 goes into 5 twice, with 1 left over. And then we know that a negative times a negative is a positive, so 2.5. Number 16, we'll have to change both of those to improper fractions. So 3 times 3 is 9, and 1 more is 10. And it was negative. And then the second fraction will be negative as well. 2 times 10 is 20, plus 7 is 27. We get 27 tenths. And then we'll multiply across the numerators. Get 270, and 3 times 10 is 30. We can simplify. We could divide by 10 over 10 and get 27 thirds. And then we can see that 3 goes into 27 9 times, so it's just 9. And a negative times a negative is a positive. Those of you who simplify right away, you probably noticed that there was a 10 over 10, and 10 divided by 10 is just 1. So you could have jumped to your 27 thirds right away. And you could have then just divided 27 by 3 to get your 9. For number 17, now we're just multiplying decimals. 0.03 times 0.4. 4 times 3 is 12. And 4 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. And we had 3 digits after a decimal point. So we have to annex in a 0. And then a positive times a negative is a negative. So that's going to be negative 0.012. And then the same for 18, 0.05 times 0.5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 0 is 0, and 2 is 2. And we had 3 digits after a decimal point. A negative times a negative is a positive. So we just leave this one as 0.025. For number 19 and 21, we just have a couple extra steps here. So let's go ahead and just multiply our decimals first. 0.09 times 0.5. 9 times 5 is 45. 5 times 0 is 0, and 4 is 4. 3 digits after a decimal point. So we get 0.045. And then we're going to take 0.045 and we're going to multiply that times 8. So 8 times 5 is 40. 8 times 4 is 32, and 4 more is 36. And 8 times 0 is 0, plus 3 is 3. We had 3 digits after the decimal, so we need 3 digits after our decimal here. But now we do need to figure out the sign. So let's look and say that we had the negative 8 times positive 0.09. So a negative times a positive is a negative. And now we take that negative, multiply it times another negative, because we had negative 0.5, and a negative times a negative is a positive. So that's how we end up with positive 0.360. Okay, for 21, it says negative 1 2/3 cubed. So we are really going to take negative 1 2/3 times negative 1 2/3 times negative 1 2/3. Let's turn 1 2/3 into an improper fraction. 1 times 3 is 3, and 2 is 5. So that's 5/3, and it's negative, times negative 5/3 times negative 5/3. So 5 times 5 is 25, and 25 times 5 is 125. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27. Now we can just turn that back to a mixed number. 27 goes into 125 4 times. 27 times 4 would be 108. So that means there'd be 17 left over out of 27. And then we have to figure out our sign. A negative times a negative is a positive. And then that positive times another negative is a negative. So you have negative 4 and 17/27. On number 25, modeling real life, it says a 14.5 gallon gas tank is 3/4 full. How many gallons will it take to fill the tank? So right now we know that we have a 14.5 gallon gas tank. So let's go 14.5. And we're going to multiply that times 3/4 full, and 3/4 is 0.75. So we'll just go ahead and rewrite this vertically. And we'll do our long multiplication. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20, and 2 is 22. 5 times 1 is 5, and 2 more is 7. 0 for a placeholder. And we'll go 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 4 is 28, and 3 more is 31. 7 times 1 is 7, and 3 is 10. So now when we add those up, we end up with 10875, and we had 3 digits after a decimal point. So we need 3 digits after the decimal point here, meaning 10.875 gallons are in the tank. It says how many gallons will it take to fill it. So we're just going to go 14.5. We're going to annex in a couple extra zeros there because we can, and we need our decimal points to line up. And we're going to take away 10.875. And now we're just subtracting decimals, so we have to do a bunch of regrouping. Ten minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 7 is 2. Now we have 4 and we try to take away 8 and we can't, so we have to borrow or regroup again. 14 minus 8 is 6. 3 minus 0 is 3. And 1 minus 1 is 0. So we need 3.625 more gallons in order to fill the tank. Number 40 says that we have negative 2/3 squared. So that means that we're going to have negative 2/3 times negative 2/3. And then we're going to take away 3/4 times 2 1/3. So let's just change that right away to an improper fraction. 2 times 3 is 6, and another is 7. And then I'm going to put parentheses just so we can keep everything organized nicely. Now on the left side, we'll do 2 times 2 is 4, and 3 times 3 is 9. And then we say a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, so that's just going to stay positive 4/9. Now on the right side, we have a couple options. We could just multiply, or we could see that we have a 3 on top and bottom, and that would allow us to cancel the 3 and the 3, and we're just left with 7/4. 7 on top, 4 on the bottom. Now you may look at this next problem, and you may say that we can just cancel again the 4 and the 4. But we actually can't do that now because now this is a subtraction problem and we now need to get common denominators. So we kind of have to start this thing over. We need to get common denominators between 4/9 and then we're going to take away 7/4. So common denominator would be 36. On the left side, we'd multiply by 4. 9 times 4 is 36. So 4 times 4 is 16. On the right side, we'd multiply by a factor of 9. 4 times 9 is 36. So 7 times 9 is 63. And now that we have our common denominator of 36, we're just going to subtract the numerators. We have 16, and we're going to take away 63. If you want to, you could chop slash this. Okay. 63 minus 16 is going to give us the difference. So between 63 and 16, we have a difference of 47. The negative was bigger, so it's going to be negative 47/36. And now we could change that back to a mixed number and say we have negative 1 and 11/36.